Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, what we're going to talk about is advanced selectors. They're not really called advanced selectors. I'm just kind of grouping some of the rest of the selectors we haven't talked about yet into a section called advanced, because we had simple selectors earlier in this course or in this chapter. So I'm going to go through a few more selectors of different ways that we can select different elements, and I think you're going to really like it. So let's dive right in. We're not going to get to all of them, but I am going to show you a good chunk of them. So let me switch over to my screen here. And for this, I am actually going to let's create a new page. And going to make that mistake again. And let's call this selectors.html. And then I'm going to show you, I think this should work if you have a Visual Studio Code, but you can actually just do a exclamation point and then tab, and this will actually create the boilerplate HTML that we need. We could change this title here to selectors. Now, we were typing them out before. I didn't really want to show you, you know, any sort of quick ways of doing it, because I wanted you to get used to typing some of this on your own. But we're here in the body now. The other thing we need to do in the head before we move on is we need to link in our style sheet. So let's just do that. And that's going to be /styles.css. Okay. And then what we're going to do, I think, is add in our body. Let's just do an H2, and we'll put selectors. And then underneath that, let's go ahead and put a paragraph tag, and we'll do first paragraph. And then let's do another one, and let's do second paragraph. And I'm going to do 4 of these, just to paragraph. Okay, and another one here, and we'll do 4th paragraph. Okay, the next thing I want to do is let's go ahead and create a div, and inside this div let's create a paragraph, and we're going to call this nested paragraph. And let's do another one for second nested paragraph. I know I'm not very creative with my words here, but we're going to get through this, because what we're actually putting on the page isn't all that important. What is important is what we can learn to do with some of this different stuff. So I think I'll start there. And let's just in the URL address bar here, let's go ahead and put in selectors.html. And now we can see we have this lined up like this. Okay, so let's go into our styles here. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. And what I want to do is, let's talk about the first type of selector I want to talk about is a combinator. And Combinator Selectors gives us a few different options here, and we're mainly going to be looking at this section here with our combinators, and we will look at some of these too, but we'll start off with this div. So let me start there. And what I can do with a combinator is, normally I can do this. I can do a regular element. So I can say div with the P, like that, just a space. So we do a div and a space. Now notice there's no comma here, and that's important. So we'll do div P, and we'll just do color red. Okay, and if I refresh, what you'll notice is that all of my nested paragraphs only are red. None of these other paragraphs turn red. And the reason that is in our HTML, we have a div, and inside of that, we have these paragraph tags. And so what this does is it says, hey, every paragraph that's inside of this div, make that color red. So this is a element combinator. So this is called a combinator because there's multiple elements here, and I'm specifying if it's a paragraph and it's within a div, make it red. And in fact, if just to give you another example, if I added another div down here and we did a paragraph, this will also be red. So if I refresh here, this new paragraph is red too because it is inside of this div. If I remove that parent div and we just do this and refresh, you can see that that paragraph now is black. Okay, so that is the element. Let's look at the next one. The next combinator selector we can do is we can actually tell it like, hey, I only want to do, well, you know what? I need to add just a little bit more here. So let's do, inside of here, let's do a section. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these paragraphs inside of that section just to demonstrate this next thing. So let's go back now and let's get rid of this, and I want to show you the difference between these two selectors. So if I refresh, this is still all red, and it's red because these P's are still inside of a div. So if you look at the way that we have this structure is we have a div, and then we have a section, and then we have a bunch of P's inside of it. So technically these paragraph tags are inside of a div. Okay, but they're also inside of a section. So let me add one more P element that's outside of that section. So this is not in section. All right, and we refresh. That paragraph is also red because it's inside of this div. Now, what if I wanted to say, hey, I want to specify that this element needs to be directly inside the parent. Okay, so that's what this does. This little deal here is like kind of a child. It's saying, hey, the parent div, I want to take all paragraphs that are direct children of this div and make those red. And if I refresh now, we only have one of those that are in that div now that is going to be red because this is a direct descendant of this. These paragraph tags here are not direct descendants of this div. They're actually inside of this section. Okay, and if I add another paragraph tag here, we'll put another not in section. And if we refresh now, you can see that both of these are red because both of these meet that criteria. So the criteria for this is this paragraph has to be a direct child of this div. And if I get rid of that, as long as that paragraph is within a div somewhere, they will all be red. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Let me show you the other one. And this is a plus sign. And what this does, I'm just going to go ahead and refresh and show you. We have none of them that are red. And let me show you why. It's because we don't have any paragraphs that are directly siblings. So this is a sibling selector, and this is going to look for the first sibling after this element. So a better use of this, remember how we put an H2 up here, we can actually put an H2 here and refresh, and now you can see because we put this plus here, we're saying, hey, a sibling, find me a paragraph sibling that's directly after an H2. So we have an H2 here, and there's a sibling, meaning it's not nested inside of this. These are siblings, they're not parent or children of each other. So these are sibling elements, and this is the one that's directly after that. Okay, now if I wanted to make all sibling paragraphs after this H2 red, then there's one more combinator selector we can use, and that is a tilde, and that's going to get all the siblings that come after that other element here. So we have an H2, so all paragraphs that are after that are going to be red. Now, you'll notice that none of these paragraphs turned red, and that is because these are not siblings with the H2. Okay, so these paragraph tags up here, these are all siblings of the H2. These paragraphs here are not siblings because this div will be a sibling, but these are actually all children of this div. Okay, so that's why these here are direct siblings. They are going to be red. So what do you think would happen then if we go ahead and put down here, not nested in the div, if we put a paragraph and we'll put fifth paragraph, and let's refresh and see what happens. Okay, so this is interesting because we have all of this here in between these, but this is still considered a general sibling with this H2 because it follows that H2. Even though it's further down in the document, it follows this H2. And again, if I would go back and we change this to a plus, again, that's only going to be the first sibling. Okay, the first sibling. And that's the difference between a tilde and a plus sign, is we are selecting all general siblings or we're selecting the first sibling. So I hope that makes sense. You're going to find all kinds of uses for this, especially doing something with the first element after something else, for style reasons, you would want to do that. The other one you're going to find yourself using all the time is the paragraph that's within the div. You will use that quite often, like that. And then you'll also use this one. Actually, you'll use them all kind of often. I don't generally use the tilde that often unless I have a really good reason to, just because, like I said, it gets a little unpredictable because it's way down here and I may not expect that one to be red because it's just not grouped with this stuff up here. So that may be a better way of doing that. But I just wanted to show you those. Those are the Combinator selectors. Now we do have some other selectors that are pretty neat. And these are called pseudo-class selectors. And we've already looked at some of these actually, because a pseudo-class selector, an example of that was it's basically a state that these can be in. And so what I can do here is let me go ahead and get rid of this. Well, you know what, we'll keep this and we'll do something else with it. So to make these red, I'm going to do a pseudo selector, and I'm going to say, hey, anytime this H2 has a hover state, make it red. So if I refresh now, you can see that none of these are red and the H2 is black, but if I hover over it, it becomes red. So that is a pseudo selector, and there's quite a few pseudo selectors. We looked at a lot of those when we were talking about styling links. But those are the types of things that you're going to be doing with pseudo selectors. The other really cool pseudo selector that you'll find yourself using a lot is, let's then say I want to style inside of my divs. I want to style all of my P's with an nth child. Okay, we can say 2. So let's say I wanted to do every second element inside of my div, okay? And an interesting thing happens here. Let's look back here. We have another not in selection here, and we have this second nested paragraph here. Well, what happens now if I go and let's make this the child, and now we just have this one, okay? Let's get rid of this, and let me show you another one that's really cool. You can do this. This is really useful for making, like, if you ever seen alternating colors in a table, but you can do even. You can just type the word even in there. And now any paragraph tag that's in a div, the even ones will be red. I can also do odd. And now the first, third, and fifth elements inside of a div will be red. So the even and odd thing is really cool for alternating colors. Like in a table, you can do alternating background colors and things like that, just to make them easier to read. If you've ever seen kind of a striped table, this is probably how they did that. with the nth child pseudo class there. So what that does is you're targeting the paragraph, but you're saying, hey, I only want to find the child there that is even or odd, or you can do 1, 2, or even the third one. So we refresh that. Now it's just the third nested paragraph within the div. Okay, so that covers probably the most common pseudo classes. There's one more I want to talk about, and that is pseudo elements. There's quite a few pseudo elements. Probably the one that you're going to see the most is a before and after. So what I can do, let's go ahead and get rid of this for now. And let's say an H2. Now a pseudo element's a little bit different because pseudo elements have 2 colons instead of 1. Now a pseudo class has 1 colon, like hover state and things like that, but a pseudo element has 2. And we can do the before here. And let's say before my H2s, I want to add the content of an asterisk. Okay. If I refresh now, you can see that before my H2, it added an asterisk. I can also do a comma, and we can say I want that also on the after. So now I want to surround my H2s with this little asterisk thing. So there's plenty of other things we can do. You can see that those are not selectable text. These are not in the text. This is solely CSS, and I could show you that if you click on down here in the inspector. There's this before and after that shows up, these pseudo elements, and you can see the class just for that, and we're adding content there with that. Now I'm not going to go too deep into this, and in fact, if you're lost with some of these, don't worry about it too much, because we're going to cover a little bit more during our projects when these come up and for real life examples. But I just wanted to show some more selectors that we can do besides some of the basics with classes and IDs and elements, that there are more powerful selectors out there that we can do. So I hope that makes sense, and I will see you guys in the next video.